Welcome to the Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where every cup tells a story, and every story starts with a sip. Join us on a journey of adventure, camaraderie, and of course, the finest brews, served hot and steeped in mystery. From dragons to ancient legends, we're brewing up more than just coffee. Today's tale begins when a traveling adventuring party claims a dangerous mimic has escaped from an abandoned keep. Suddenly, every chair, mug, chest, and spoon becomes suspicious as the tavern falls into a hilarious case of monster paranoia. But when the true mimic is finally discovered hiding in plain sight, Patches learns that not every creature lurking in the shadows is looking for a fight. Sometimes, they are only looking for a place to belong. Now, grab your mug, settle in, and get ready for the next chapter in our brewing saga. Season 2, Episode 29, Mimic Monday. The road outside Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern disappeared beneath steady rain, turning wagon ruts into shallow streams and sending every sensible traveler searching for warmth. Mondays were usually quiet enough to hear the crackle of the hearth over the clink of mugs, but the storm had packed every table with merchants, hunters, wanderers, and a handful of road-weary adventurers. Java darted from table to table balancing fresh coffee. Nyved emerged from the kitchen carrying steaming plates fragrant with herbs and spices. Snooks happily chased a rolling cinnamon stick across the floor, and Patches sorted fresh bundles of healing herbs near the counter while Braticus enjoyed the rare peace that came with an uneventful afternoon. It lasted exactly 3 heartbeats before the tavern door slammed open hard enough to rattle every mug on the shelves.
Or the door!
That is quite the introduction. Care to explain before someone mistakes your enthusiasm for trouble?
Trouble already found us.
5 mud-soaked adventurers stumbled inside, armor scratched, cloaks torn, and eyes fixed nervously on every chair, table, and barrel they passed. One carried a shield with fresh bite marks carved into its rim. Another clutched a backpack at arm's length as though expecting it to attack at any moment. The room fell quiet as every patron watched the exhausted group catch their breath.
You're safe here. Sit down, breathe, and tell us what happened.
We'd rather stand.
Fine by me. More chairs for everyone else.
We cleared the abandoned keep north of the river. Goblins, giant rats, crumbling walls. Nothing unusual.
Until we reached the dungeon vault.
That's where we found the mimic.
A murmur spread through the tavern. Several patrons exchanged uneasy glances. One elderly traveler quietly pulled his boots onto the bench beside him.
A mimic, you say? Those are usually unpleasant customers.
Unpleasant? It pretended to be a treasure chest.
Then it pretended to be a door. Then a barrel.
I still don't trust barrels.
I've never trusted barrels. They never tell you what's inside until it's too late.
We wounded it, but it escaped into the old tunnels.
If it reached the surface, it could be anywhere by now.
The tavern grew noticeably quieter. A merchant slowly scooted his chair away from a nearby coat rack. Across the room, someone cautiously set down a spoon as though it might suddenly sprout teeth.
If it truly escaped, we'll remain alert. No need for panic.
Easy for you to say.
If it's clever.
It could be anything.
The words seemed to settle over the room like the storm clouds outside. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then a customer eased himself into an old wooden chair near the hearth. The chair answered with a loud, drawn-out creak.
It moved.
The customer launched himself backwards so quickly that the chair toppled over onto its side with an equally dramatic crash. Half the tavern stumbled away from it while the other half stared in frozen silence, waiting for rows of teeth to appear. The chair remained exactly where it had landed, looking every bit like an ordinary, slightly offended piece of furniture.
Stay behind me.
Braticus cautiously approached, extended the handle of a broom toward the fallen chair, and gave it a careful poke. Nothing happened.
Did it blink?
If chairs start blinking, I'm charging them for supper.
Braticus poked the chair again. Still nothing. Finally, he lifted it upright, inspected every leg, turned it upside down, peered beneath the seat, and set it back on the floor.
Diagnosis complete.
And?
It is guilty of being old.
Laughter rippled through the tavern, easing the tension just enough for nervous smiles to return. Even the drenched adventurers managed a sheepish chuckle, though each of them continued watching every ordinary object in the room with unmistakable suspicion. Somewhere beneath the laughter, however, the storm continued to drum against the roof, and unnoticed by everyone inside, the welcome mat beside the front door gave the faintest, almost imperceptible twitch. The laughter lingered only briefly before nervous eyes drifted back to mugs, tables, shelves, and every harmless object within arm's reach. What had begun as an outlandish tale was quietly becoming everyone's problem. Rain continued to patter against the tavern roof while conversations resumed in cautious whispers, each patron secretly wondering if the next thing they touched might suddenly develop teeth.
Is anyone else watching that coat rack?
It hasn't moved.
That's exactly what a clever mimic would want us to think.
Your coffee is getting cold.
What if the mug is the mimic?
Then it's very committed to staying full.
The merchant reluctantly accepted the mug with both hands, keeping it at arm's length before taking the smallest sip imaginable. Across the room, Snooks waddled after a rolling cinnamon stick, pouncing happily until it disappeared beneath the table.
Something growled.
That was my stomach.
Are you sure?
Quite sure. I missed second breakfast.
Several patrons laughed, though more than one still glanced beneath the tables. Braticus slowly circled the common room with all the seriousness of a royal inspector, pausing beside chairs, barrels, and shelves before giving each one a thoughtful tap with the end of his walking staff.
Chair?
It's a chair.
Good.
He moved to the next one.
Stool?
Also, just a stool.
Excellent.
Satisfied, Braticus nodded and continued his inspection while Patches watched with quiet amusement from the counter.
Finding anything?
Mostly furniture.
At that very moment, a low, rumbling sound echoed across the tavern.
The treasure chest.
Half the room jumped to their feet. One adventurer nearly drew his sword while another hid behind a table. Every eye locked onto an old storage chest sitting against the far wall.
Nobody touch it.
That's my chest.
Did it just burp?
Possibly?
Nyved walked calmly across the room, opened the lid, and peered inside.
Ah. I forgot I put smoked cheese in there yesterday.
Cheese burps?
If it sits long enough.
A collective sigh swept through the tavern as shoulders relaxed once again. The chest remained perfectly ordinary, though several patrons quietly decided they no longer wanted any of the cheese.
This is exactly how it starts.
How what starts?
You explain away one strange thing after another until something eats your boots.
Before anyone could answer, another shout erupted from the opposite side of the room.
The spoon winked at me.
That's because I polished it.
Oh. Right.
Embarrassed, the scholar lowered the spoon and resumed eating while several nearby patrons tried very hard not to smile.
Remain vigilant.
Against shiny cutlery?
Especially shiny cutlery.
The tavern settled once more, but only on the surface. Every creak of wood, every bubbling kettle, every shifting shadow drew suspicious glances. Patches noticed something the others did not. Fear had become far more contagious than any monster. If they continued this way, they would soon be battling their own imaginations instead of a mimic. Quietly, she began observing the room, not for something pretending to be furniture, but for something that didn't quite belong at all. Patches waited patiently while the tavern continued its investigation of completely innocent objects. Braticus examined the corners of the room with the focus of a seasoned warrior, Java watched the coffee station for suspicious activity, and Nyved inspected every container in the kitchen despite already proving that the most dangerous thing in the storage chest had been forgotten cheese. The adventurers moved carefully from table to table, searching for signs of the creature they had warned everyone about.
Before we decide something is a threat, perhaps we should decide what we are actually looking for.
A mimic.
Yes, but what does a mimic do?
It hides.
Okay. And?
It waits.
Exactly. It wants to be unnoticed.
Everyone looked around the tavern again, this time with a little more thought. A chair that made noise was probably just an old chair. A mug that bubbled was probably just hot coffee. A chest that burped was probably just full of cheese. The trick was not finding the loudest thing in the room. It was finding the thing that had no reason to draw attention at all.
A clever enemy would choose a location where nobody would question its presence.
Like a coffee bean sack?
If a coffee bean sack starts moving, I am leaving the room.
You would leave your own kitchen?
I would leave quickly and return with snacks.
The search continued. Shelves were checked. Tables were tapped. Barrels were inspected. Even the curtains received a suspicious glance from one particularly nervous adventurer. Through it all, the welcome mat near the entrance remained exactly where it had always been. Or at least, where everyone thought it had always been.
Has that mat always been there?
The question stopped everyone.
A reasonable question.
I think so.
I don't remember buying a new one.
Everyone turned toward the entrance. The simple woven mat sat beneath the door, collecting rainwater and mud from every traveler who entered. It looked ordinary. Completely ordinary. Perhaps too ordinary.
Interesting. I have spent the last several minutes looking for something suspicious.
Right. And?
I have discovered that the least suspicious thing in the tavern is now the most suspicious thing in the tavern.
Braticus approached slowly. He held his staff out in front of him and carefully stepped around the mat rather than on it. The room watched silently as he circled the small piece of fabric.
Are you interrogating a rug?
I am investigating a possible threat.
It's a rug.
That is what it wants you to believe.
Patches crouched near the entrance and studied the mat. She did not reach for a weapon. She did not prepare a spell. She simply observed. The threads shifted slightly beneath the surface. Not like fabric settling. Like something breathing.
Everyone stay calm.
That is usually what people say right before something terrible happens.
Or right before something frightened happens.
The room grew quiet. Patches tilted her head and listened. Beneath the sounds of rain, footsteps, and nervous breathing was another sound. A tiny, quiet rumble. Not a growl as you might think of a growl. It was a stomach growl.
Did the mat just make a hungry noise?
The mat?
Yes. The mat.
I have many questions.
Patches gently placed a hand near the edge of the mat. The fabric shifted, then slowly lifted. The woven surface stretched, revealing two curious eyes peering out from beneath the disguise. Several patrons gasped. The adventurers reached for their weapons.
Mimic confirmed.
The creature froze, waiting for the attack that had always followed discovery. Instead, Patches noticed something else. The mimic was not preparing to strike. It was simply trying to hide. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
From a spark of an idea to a masterpiece, every dream begins where imagination meets ink of cotton colors burning bright. Coffee cups that bring your mornings to life. A dragon's fire, a creator's hand, building every vision just the way you plan. Bold designs that stand above the crowd, wear it proud, say it loud. Every line, every shade, every story we create, turning inspiration into something great. Nyved designs, we're bringing dreams alive with creativity and passion thrive. T-shirts, coffee cups made just for you. Every design is bold and true. Let your taste, let your colors shine. Your imagination meets our design, from the first idea to the final line. We design what you love. Fantasy, freedom, laughter, pride. Whatever tells your story, we'll bring it to life. From dragons soaring through the midnight sky to coffee lovers reaching mountains high. Every order gets a heart and soul, crafting every detail until it's whole. Whether gifts or brands that proudly grow, will help your vision glow. When inspiration calls your name, we answer with creative flame. No designs, we create them all. Nyved designs, we're bringing dreams alive with creativity and passion thrive. T-shirts, coffee cups made just for you. Every design is bold and true. Nyved designs, your story starts today, creating memories in our own unique way. With dragonfly and artistic minds. Nyved designs, we design what you love.
And now, back to our show. The tavern held its breath as the mimic slowly emerged from beneath the welcome mat. Its disguise stretched and shifted, revealing that the harmless-looking entrance covering had been hiding a small creature with wide, nervous eyes. Unlike the frightening monster everyone had imagined, this mimic looked more uncertain than dangerous. It glanced at the weapons in the adventurer's hands, then quickly lowered itself closer to the floor as though expecting to disappear again.
Everyone, remain cautious.
Cautious is wise. Panicked is not.
Braticus kept his stance ready, but he lowered his weapon slightly when he noticed the mimic trembling. The creature had plenty of opportunity to attack while everyone was distracted, yet it had chosen to hide instead. Patches carefully moved closer, speaking in the same calm voice she used when treating injured animals.
Hello. We know you are there. You don't need to hide anymore.
The mimic's eyes shifted between Patches and the doorway. It seemed to be deciding whether trust was worth the risk.
Are you going to hurt me?
The room went silent. Nobody expected the creature to speak, and several patrons looked more surprised by its question than by its appearance.
It talks.
Of course it talks. Today was already strange enough.
Most people stop asking questions after they see my teeth.
The mimic's voice was quiet and hesitant. It slowly reshaped one corner of itself, almost nervously changing the edge of its form before returning to the appearance of the welcome mat.
Why were you hiding here?
Because nobody notices a map.
The answer was so simple that several people looked at the small creature differently. It had not chosen the tavern because it wanted to trap travelers. It had chosen the tavern because travelers were everywhere, and nobody thought twice about something sitting by the door.
The dungeon was loud. Adventurers came looking for treasure. Then they found me.
And you escaped.
I did not want to fight. Every time I changed shape, someone tried to destroy me. So I found a place where people stepped on me politely instead.
That is probably the saddest reason I have ever heard for becoming a rug.
It is also a very strange reason.
I was hungry.
Patch's expression softened. She looked at the creature, then toward the tavern around them. The same tavern that welcomed travelers, healed the injured, and gave second chances to those who needed them. The mimic had not been searching for treasure. It had been searching for somewhere safe.
When was the last time you ate?
I swallowed a boot 3 days ago.
A boot?
It was not very good.
I imagine the seasoning was lacking.
A few patrons laughed quietly, and the tension that had filled the room began to fade. The adventurers lowered their weapons, though they still watched the mimic carefully. Braticus studied the creature for several moments before finally relaxing his shoulders.
A creature that hides from danger instead of causing it is not the enemy we expected.
Does that mean I can stay?
Patches smiled and moved toward the kitchen.
First, we make sure you are fed.
The mimic's eyes brightened. For the first time since it had been discovered, it stopped looking like a creature waiting to be chased away. It looked like a guest waiting to be welcomed. The mood inside Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern had changed completely. What had started as a hunt for a dangerous creature had become something far different. The adventurers who arrived expecting a battle now watched with curiosity as the kitchen prepared a meal for the newest guest. Patches guided the mimic away from the doorway and toward a safer corner near the hearth where it could rest without being stepped on.
If you are staying here, you need a proper meal.
I have never had a proper meal.
Then today is a very important day.
Nyved disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a collection of leftovers, fresh bread, and a few carefully prepared treats. The mimic eagerly shifted between shapes as it tasted each offering, briefly becoming a bowl, a plate, and a small wooden tray before remembering it did not need to pretend anymore.
You know, we usually serve coffee to travelers.
I have never tried coffee.
Then you are about to experience something wonderful.
Java prepared a small cup of warm drinking chocolate instead. He explained that coffee was important, but a first welcome deserved something gentle. The mimic carefully wrapped itself around the cup, holding it like a treasure far more valuable than anything hidden in a dungeon vault.
This is the first thing anyone has given me without trying to take something from me.
The room grew quiet for a moment. Even the adventurers who had been prepared to fight looked away with a little embarrassment. They had entered the tavern expecting a monster. Instead, they had found someone who had simply been afraid.
Sometimes the things we fear are only waiting for someone to understand them.
A lesson worth remembering.
Braticus looked toward the adventurers and then back at the mimic.
Though I will admit, I would prefer if future guests announced themselves before becoming household objects.
I can do that.
The mimic immediately transformed into a small wooden sign beside the hearth.
Hello. I am not a chair.
That is a reasonable improvement.
The tavern erupted in laughter. The mimic happily returned to its usual shape, pleased that for once its unusual abilities brought smiles instead of fear. The adventurers stayed for a meal, sharing stories of their dungeon expedition and admitting that perhaps not every creature found in the dark needed to be defeated.
We came here to warn everyone about a monster.
Instead, we found someone who needed a home.
Outside, the rain finally began to fade. Inside, Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern gained a new resident and one very unusual piece of decor. The welcome mat no longer sat forgotten by the door. It now had a name, a place by the fire, and plenty of new friends.
Welcome to Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern.
Wait. Did the sign just talk?
Every person in the room froze. Slowly, everyone turned toward Nada Chair.
Yes, I did.
That's a mimic.
The tavern groaned as Braticus slowly covered his face with one hand. The same panic that had started the entire day threatened to begin again.
We have made progress. Unfortunately, we may need to make the same progress repeatedly.
Laughter filled Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern once more as the newest member of the family settled comfortably beside the hearth. The lesson of Mimic Monday would not soon be forgotten. Sometimes a monster is just a monster. And sometimes it is simply waiting for someone to offer it a seat.
Don't forget to hit the like button.
Yeah. And maybe drop a comment. It's like getting something in the mail. Gotta love getting some mail from your friends, right?
Maybe they don't like us, Nyved. You shouldn't expect everyone to like us.
Not like us? Inconceivable. Who doesn't like a team as amazing as us? Or baby dragons at the very least.
We must let them decide. We can only play our part. And hope.
The fire is low, the mugs are empty, and tonight's tale has come to an end. But the journey is far from over. Thank you for gathering with us at Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where adventure brews with every sip. Join us next time as new challenges arise, mysteries deepen, and the magic of the tavern unfolds. If you enjoyed this taste of adventure, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. We'll save a seat for you at the tavern. See you soon.